All right. Hey, what's going on? Mr. Robinson here. I hope you're ready to learn because I'm ready to teach. You're welcome. Today we'll be looking at the Constitution again because, well, guess what? That's what the whole unit is on. Unit 2 is all about the Constitution. Specifically today, we're looking at the principles within the Constitution. All right. So, hey, you know what? Let's just go ahead and get into it. Now, you're not going to get this anywhere else. All right. I tell you that all the time. Make it very clear. I put premium gas in my car this morning. You're getting some premium instruction. All right. Um, with this Constitution. So, constitutional principles. All right. One, a limited government, meaning that if you remember from when the colonies were ruled by Great England, they were very suspicious of a government with total control. All right. So a limited government, meaning that government's powers are not all encompassing, but they're somewhat limited. So here's another one that's part of that. The rule of law means it doesn't matter if you're 6'6" tall, have a striped pink polo shirt on, and have a good mustache, or you're not. Okay, the rule of law applies to everyone. So with England, okay, the rule of law wouldn't apply to the king because he's the king, right? So the idea that it doesn't matter who you are, you're all equal under the law. That's what limited government is with the Constitution. Majority rules not always acceptable, abused by factions. Okay, but the big thing is limited government. That's the first one. All right, that people now have some power, and it's not all given to the government or in such case a monarch as it was in England. The next one, all right, this is important. This is a big one. This idea of checks and balances. Okay, so with that in our Constitution, we have three branches of government, and each branch has a certain role. And I'm going to explain the branches in a little bit, but one branch will check the power of another branch. All right. So, for example, a law or a bill is made by the legislative branch, it's made by Congress. But before that can go into effect, it has to be signed by the president. So the president can veto it. He can shut it down. All right, he can shut it down just like we did last school year with the coronavirus, just like the governor did our economy. He shut it down. All right. So that's an example of checks and balances. It's this idea to keep one secular branch from becoming too powerful. All right. Um, and so they can the executive or the president can do that. He can veto it, and then even after that, the law itself can come under review, and the Supreme Court or judicial branch can say no, it's unconstitutional. So cut that out too. So think of it. I'll tell you. I'll show you. I'll tell you how to think of these branches in the next part. The separation of powers. This is really kind of the meat and potatoes of it. All right. It goes along with checks and balances. Three branches. All right. Executive, legislative, judicial. So the way I teach it in class sometimes is I have, let's say, hey, play paper, rock, scissors, right? You guys know how that is. You have paper, rock, and then the scissors. Each branch has a role. So paper, rock, scissors, not one of those three is stronger than the other, right? The paper beats the rock, okay. Scissors beats the paper, all right, and the paper covers the rock. So they can all kind of beat each other. Well, that's the same way the branches work. Now, think of it, the executive branch is the president there. She enforces the law. The legislative branch makes the law. They write the laws, right? And then the judicial branch will look at it and review the law, and they can declare it unconstitutional. So I always think of the executive as the rock, all right, in paper rock scissors. He or she is the one enforcing the law. The legislative branch is the paper. They're the one making the laws. All right, legislative branch meaning Congress. And then the judicial branch, being the Supreme Court, is they can cut out the law. They can declare it unconstitutional. So they interpret the law. All right, but the separation of powers, it's again the idea that not one part of government can become too strong, and they get that from the economists, the people that write the Constitution, get that from their experience with Great Britain. All right, so they're weary or suspicious of one person being a king, or in this case, the executive branch, of them becoming too powerful. So they want to check their power with these other branches. If that makes sense to you guys. There it is again, okay? Judicial branch right there, that would be the Supreme Court. The executive branch, now we typically think of the president, but it also includes the vice president, and even under that is the cabinet, which we'll look at the cabinet later. And then you have the legislative branch. Remember, that was created with the compromise between the Virginia plan and the New Jersey plan. So you have the legislative branch, meaning Congress, composed of two houses, a bicameral legislature, meaning the House of Representatives and the Senate. The Senate being based off the New Jersey plan, where each state has equal representation of two senators. The House of Representatives there being based off the Virginia plan, where it's proportional to the population of the state. So which state today do you think has the most representatives? California. And then the one with the least would be also the state with the least population, which would be Wyoming. Okay, so there is again. These are just examples of the checks and balances. Right? Again, the president can veto legislation. The president nominates Supreme Court judges, but then they have to be confirmed by the Senate. Just say it in there, confirm them. You can look at it. That's just an example. All right. Popular sovereignty. All right. Popular sovereignty is, again, that the power rests with the people. And that is through the institution of the act of voting. So, for instance, if you look at Great Britain or England during its time of rule over the colonies, the king he didn't get his power from the people. Okay, so the king it wasn't voted or elected into office. He got it as a birthright. That's the way monarchies work. In our system of government, we have voting. So we have an elected official. The people are the one that give the officials the power. All right. So if you look at any person that's elected, that they get their power or their position from the people, the voters. These are the two forms of democracy. The one that we really look at within our government is representative democracy. All right, so Congress you have those representatives that they represent a certain district, and then you have the senators who represent the entire state. And then once you look at like the president, he represents the entire country. All right, so that's the idea behind representative democracy. There are certain elements in our country of direct democracy, but again, those are very small settings. Okay, because again, a direct democracy, everyone votes on a particular issue, and to get anything passed or anything done like that within our country would take forever. I mean, it'd take a long time because uh, you have to have everybody vote on it. I mean, it's already hard enough to get Congress to pass a bill. It would be supremely hard to get a bill passed with the institution of direct democracy. Federalism is so you're going to be tested on this on the state. Well, I don't take the state exam, but we'll take a final exam in this class, maybe one that I make. Federalism is the idea that power rests between the federal government as well as the state or local government. That you have two or more systems of government. So think of it, you have the federal government. That's in Washington, D.C. That's the top dogs. All right. Then you have each state has their own government. So like Roy Cooper, our governor, we have a state legislature called the General Assembly, and then you go on down. So you have individual towns that have mayors, or then you have county government. So that's like district government. So each as you go down that level, it gets closer to the actual citizen. So I would bet that most citizens are probably generally more familiar on a personal level with people in their local government versus people at the state or even national government. For instance, I know the mayor of my town. All right, I know him. I don't personally. Okay, I don't personally know Roy Cooper, who's the executive of our state government. I don't personally know Donald Trump, who's the executive of our national government. So that is an example. But the idea behind federalism that there's a national government, and then kind of under that you have a state government, and then under that a local government. Another thing, the way I explain this to students, think of it as on a national level. What kind of police is on the national level? You have the FBI or Federal Bureau of Investigation. All right. At the state, you have a few on the state government. So you have a State Bureau of Investigation. You also have like the State Highway Patrol. All right, that's a state law enforcement agency. But now the local law enforcement agency, you would have like Aberdeen Town Police or even the sheriff's department, which is within the whole county of Moore County. So the FBI is a federal jurisdiction, meaning they can go in any state and arrest someone. An Aberdeen town cop policeman cannot go to Oklahoma and arrest someone. All right, that you would have to get the FBI involved in order to do that. Let's look at the types of powers in the Constitution. Enumerated means they are directly expressed. So it literally says this in the Constitution. The federal government has the power to make peace, make treaties, declare war, naturalize citizenship, all these things, regulate interstate trade. That is what an enumerated power is. It directly says it. All right. I don't know how simpler to make it. It says it right there in the Constitution. So that's what enumerated power is. The concurrent power that's a type of power that the state government and the federal government both have. So, for instance, taxing people, state government can do it, the federal government can do it. So, and when you become an adult, like I am, I'm just going to tell you is you pay taxes. You pay state taxes and you pay federal taxes. So when you do your taxes at the end of the year, you have to do them for a state government and then the federal government. That's what taxing is, all right? Providing for welfare and safety of citizens. That has to do with those policing agencies. You have a federal or FBI, and then you have on down to even your local law enforcement agency. Making laws. There are national or federal laws, all right? And then there are state laws below that. So different states have different laws. For instance, students are kind of interested in this a lot of times. In certain states, it is legal to use marijuana. All right. In North Carolina, it's not legal. But in California, all right, I used to live in California, and it was not uncommon to be walking down the street somewhere and seeing someone using marijuana. All right. In North Carolina, that's illegal. California, it's not. Reserve powers, all right? Those are specific powers that are reserved to the states. So the federal government is like, this is we're just not going to worry about this, and we're going to leave it to the states to decide what to do. Maybe an example would be if, say, for instance, using the school, Miss Phillips would be like the national government. All right, she's the one in charge, but each department kind of has different rules or different modes of instruction. Certain departments, they may take their students out and go on more field trips than others. That kind of has to do with a reserve power. Each state operates differently than the other state. All right. And so the national government, whereas in this case would be like Miss Phillips or the office down there, they kind of leave it up to those states to decide how to run things within their own jurisdiction, their own state. And that's it. So I'll put this video on Canvas for you, and I'm gonna put it on there with the assignment as well. And so I'll try to email it out to you. Make sure if you're missing any assignments, you get those done, okay? Because this is kind of the halfway point in the first 9 weeks. All right. So if you have any questions, again, just email me.